here we are back again with another video for POD. But as always, the joke of the day. So I'm curious if you guys know where a polar bear votes. Well, it's the North Pole. So as always, take it in, pause it if you need to, and now we get back to POD. So today's video is going to be very short. It's just going to be 2 slides talking about why your vote matters. And with that, there's going to be 2 separate questions that you're going to have to explain. The first one being why some people do vote, the other being why some people do not vote. So we're going to first start by talking about why some people do vote. And the first one, some people agree with this one, some people don't. But having a really, really cool POD teacher gets some people to vote. And, I myself, being a POD teacher, I've always told you guys that it's important to vote. So hopefully that's one thing that gets people to go out and vote. The next one is a positive attitude towards government and citizenship. Now, early on in American history, really the reason that the Revolutionary War was fought was for the purpose of being able to vote, being able to set up your own government. And whether or not you agree with what our government has done recently, or if you think that they are too powerful, I think the setup of our government is very good. And because of that, they fought for the purpose of making sure that this democracy, that this federal republic, and eventually the Constitution would live on. So that positive attitude that was started in 1787 is still around today in 2020. So because of that, that good positive attitude about government is just one thing that gets a lot of people to go out and practice their civic duty and cast their ballots. The next one, education, age, and income. Now, I know there's 3 separate sections to that one, but going one at a time. Education, generally speaking, people who have gone to college, whether that's a 2-year school, a 4-year school, the if you are more highly educated and graduated past a high school diploma, statistically, those people are more likely to vote. Now, again, you're always going to have some people that are going to start to skew those statistics, but generally speaking, if you have a higher education, that tends to get people to go out and vote. The next one is going to be age. Generally speaking, the people who vote the most are the people who are older. And I think a part of that is they've lived through a lot more. They've seen a lot more history. They have a different attitude towards government. I think a lot of young people have the attitude that their vote isn't really going to make a difference, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly. But if you're older, generally speaking, you tend to vote. And we talked about this in class the other day, how even though most people over the age of 18, unless you're incarcerated, you have the ability to vote. Only about 40% of the people who could vote did vote in 2016. And there's a lot of campaigns, there's a lot of ads to get people to vote, especially younger people. And I know from talking to students, they always say that, yes, I'm going to vote. Generally, people vote the first time they can when they're 18, sometimes when they're 22. And then for them, it's just like, kind of an afterthought. It's not as fun. It's not as cool to do anymore. So, that's why you have a lot of times the same politicians winning year after year. It's because they are elected by the same people, the same older people that are going to be voting. And then the other one is going to be income. Now, again, you're always going to have statistics that are going to skew this, but statistically, people who have a higher income are also more likely to vote. And again, this goes all the way back to the early founding of the American Republic, because people who are getting more money are taxed more heavily. So they want to make sure that they are voting in politicians who aren't saying, I'm going to raise the taxes on the rich, I'm going to raise everyone's income tax, that kind of thing. They don't want their property taxes raised. So because of that, people who have a higher income, it's going to be easier, or they're going to have a natural want to be able to go and vote. The next one is it gives you a chance to choose your government leaders. I think that this is probably one of the best ones and probably the biggest reasons why people vote. You want to have a say in the president. You want to have a say in who your governor is going to be. You want to be able to have a say in who is going to be your school board representative, your town mayor. It gives you that voice to say, I voted for this person. I think they're going to be a good leader. I like a lot of their campaign promises, so now I want them to get that position. And then lastly, it gives a chance to voice your opinions. And I think that this is probably more important when we talk about measures that are going to be voted on in a specific year than specific candidates, because the candidates, they can change their mind. They can flip-flop however they want to. Yes, they have that job for 4 years. Yes, you can vote them out. You can try to get them recalled, but that doesn't happen all that often. So by voting on the separate measures, the one where, measure one of this year, how you want to have more people on a state board of higher education, that gives you a chance to voice your opinion that, yes, I think that's good, or no, I think that's going to cost too much money. It gives you that ability to voice your concern about the government, and that's an important thing about voting. Now, the next one, why some people do not vote. Now, the first couple ones really, you don't have too much of a say in this, and that's not meeting state requirements. North Dakota is one of the most open states for voting. And in a lot of states, as long as you are 18 and you've registered, you're going to be able to vote. But as far as not meeting state requirements, it could be that you are a convicted felon. It could be that you weren't living here long enough before an election took place. It could be that you don't have a driver's license or a state issued ID. But not meeting those requirements, well, that automatically is going to make you not be able to vote. The second one, which doesn't apply to North Dakota, but applies to just about every other state, is not registering. Now, in states like Minnesota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, you have to register. You don't have to register as a Republican or a Democrat, but you have to register to be able to vote. Now, some states say that has to be 25 days before an election. Some states say that's 10 days. But you can't just show up and say, here's my driver's license. I moved here 10 days ago and expect to vote in those states. So by not registering, that automatically makes it so you are not going to be able to vote. The third one, your views are not represented by a candidate. Now, I'm willing to say that there is a candidate out there, because there are tons of third parties, although third parties generally don't win. There are a ton of people out there that are running that probably represent your views. And I'm willing to say, if you do some research, you're going to be able to find some of those individuals. So that is, your example of getting your voice heard. But just by saying, no, I don't believe with what the Republicans and Democrats are saying, I think they're all a bunch of liars. That kind of stuff just makes people say, nope, I'm not represented, therefore I'm not going to vote. Fourth, voting won't make a difference. Now, this is one I very, very much disagree with. And I already used this statistic before, but with 40% of the people not voting in 2016, or excuse me, with only 40% of the people voting in 2016, if you had the other 60% vote, that probably would have made a major, major difference. And although it's hasn't really happened all that often where only one vote made a difference. The only one I can think of that comes to the top of my head is in the election of 1800 with the presidential race between Jefferson and Aaron Burr. But all the people out there that say my vote won't make a difference, that's millions of people. So if you had those millions of people change their mind, decide, yes, I am going to vote, it is going to make a difference, then that makes a difference. But when you have all these individuals that just say, whatever, not a big deal, that's when it starts to become a problem. And then the last one, apathy. You just don't care. You don't think that government is going to affect you. You don't think that the leaders who are elected are going to affect you, which, again, I very strongly disagree with. In some way, shape, or form, somebody, either one of your good friends, one of your relatives, your neighbor, they are going to be affected by what the government does. I mean, every few years they rewrite the tax codes. That either makes it so you get more money in your paycheck or more money is taken away. Well, voting on someone who runs with the platform, I'm going to lower taxes, that's going to make it so you get to keep more money. So just by saying, I don't care, it's not going to affect me. That's why some people don't vote. But again, I tend to disagree with that. So there you have it. Those are reasons why people do and do not vote. Again, remember to explain your answer on the Google form and answer your attendance question to be counted as present.